The auxiliary fence simply sits on your existing table saw fence. Mine is the Dewalt DW745, but it doesn't matter what model you got, you can make one of these auxiliary fences for any type of table saw. The fence is constructed from 7 components, including 2 side panels measuring at 940mm by 240mm, 1 workpiece support measuring at 240mm by 300mm, 2 end panels and a centre panel which are measured directly from your existing table saw fence. And then finally, the T-track. Assembly of the components is nice and simple. It's literally just glue and screws. Just be extra cautious making sure that everything is square, otherwise it's going to transfer over into your workpiece. The main areas to check on completion is that the fence is square to the table and the workpiece support has a smooth transition onto the table. You've checked your fence for square and it's slightly out. For instance, I've checked it and it's leaning slightly forward like this. What do I need to do? Well, I need to take the fence off, turn it upside down, and with the hand plane, I need to remove a small amount of material from the corresponding side from the full length until the fence sits square. So for instance, if the fence is leaning forward like this, I need to bring it back on itself. So that means I'd remove some material from the back edge. Similarly, if it's leaning backwards like this, I'm going to need to remove some from the front edge to bring it back. Once you've done this, you're going to need to check your in-feed support because now this might be slightly out. My in-feed support was slightly out, so I placed a small shim in between the in-feed support and the fence, and then I planed that down until I had a nice smooth transition from the in-feed support into the table. Most people know about having out-feed support and why that makes your life a little bit easier, makes it safer, supports your workpiece, makes it more accurate, and just stops your work falling on the floor as well, which is annoying. Why then would we need in-feed support as well as out-feed support? Well, we've only got about 200mm, 8 inches to support the workpiece as we're feeding it into the saw. So what we've done with this is we've over doubled the capacity of the in-feed support by just adding this small piece of timber here. What that's going to do is it's going to be beneficial when you're using larger workpieces such as this. Piece of timber which is over 2 meters long, 2, 3, 4 meters long. Quite difficult to be able to place that timber down onto your table saw safely, place it against the fence, stabilise it at the rear while managing to be accurate and hold everything in line to feed it into the blade. So by having this extra workpiece support at the front here, it enables us to be able to line everything up while fully supporting the workpiece. Get it up against the fence, line everything up and support it with a nice smooth transition onto the actual saw. And then as we're feeding the workpiece through, gradually come closer towards the table saw, and then we can place our hand in the relevant position and be able to feed it through as normal. This just adds to safety, accuracy, and just makes your life a little bit easier because everything's nice and stabilised. Having the sides so high at 240mm, which is there to support larger workpieces, adds the extra bonus of having this trough on the top here. Now I use this as a convenient storage space. Everything in here was normally stored underneath my table saw, and because I've got a dodgy hip, dodgy knee, dodgy back, bending down there all the time to get that stuff was a bit of a pain, literally a pain. So having it all stored in here is great. The types of things that I like to keep in here then are the push stick, so that's ready to hand, a tape measure, a combination square, my trend digital angle finder to set the blade, a set of calipers, my zero clearance insert plate, and a pencil. And there's still plenty more storage space in there for more. I'll probably put my featherboard in here as well. While we're on the subject of featherboards, you probably already know that you can attach a featherboard to the existing T-track on your table saw, which gives you pressure into your fence. And if you've watched my recent table saw safety video, you'll know that you need pressure into the fence, down into the table saw, and forward momentum. So if you haven't seen that video, I highly recommend you watch it. I'll leave a link in the description. So these featherboards are now doing that for us. So by now having that T-track on the auxiliary fence, it's given us that added bonus of being able to apply that downward pressure. So let's see it in action. Also, in addition to the functions that the auxiliary fence is already carrying out for us, it's also going to provide a platform to use other jigs on, such as this multifunction tenoning jig, We're not going to cover this excellent jig today because it's got a multitude of excellent features that I need to show you. But what we'll do is we'll take a quick snapshot of what it can do. Just before you click off the video, hang on a second. If you like to watch a grown man make a fool of himself, stay tuned for some outtakes. And also, make sure you subscribed, ring that notification bell and leave a comment if you want. The auxiliary fence simply sits on your existing table saw fence. My table saw is a DW745 Dewalt model. Just be extra cautious when assembling all the components. Just be extra cautious making sure that everything is square when... Just be extra cautious when assembling that everything is square, otherwise this... What did I say again? Just be extra cautious making sure everything is square, or this will transfer into a wet piece. Inside here, which you can use, it adds this little trough inside, it adds this little trough on the top, it adds this little trough on the top, it adds this little trough. It adds this little trough on the top, which you can use. We're not going to cover this jig entirely today. We're not going to cover this jig entirely today because it's got a number. We're not going to cover this. We're not going to cover this excellent jig today because it's got a multitude of features. We're not going to cover this jig today. We're not going to cover this excellent jig today because this, having the sides so high at 240 millimeters, having the sides so high at 240 millimeters, which is having the sides so high at 240 millimeters. Having the sides so high at 240 millimeters, which is that. I've also got a video library of over 310 videos, some better than others, so don't forget to check them out as well. See you on the next one, guys. Bye.